everyone, welcome to this week's Down the Rabbit Hole. This week we are talking about this little beauty behind me. This is called Whirligig. It's called Whirligig because in the middle is a whirligig. This quilt is from my book Quilting from Little Things, which is my first solo book. So after I left Material Obsession, I sold the shop to my business partner and I left and I went out on my own, and it was a tricky little time for me. I hadn't planned to leave Material Obsession. It was just something that sort of happened. And I really did think, Material Obsession was such a name then in patchwork, and the books were best-selling worldwide, and it was all this big thing, and I was like, well, that's it. That's the end of that. I'll never be able to do anything again. And our publisher contacted me and asked me to write a solo book, and I nearly dropped dead from the shock. And this is the book, and it's actually still, I think, my favorite book out of all of them. Mainly because it was my first one on my own, but also because I love the quilts in it. I just love them. I think I was so happy writing it, and the quilts are all joyful and fun. So the idea of the book is that you are quilting from something small. So every large quilt in the book has a small quilt that goes with it, a doll quilt. And doll quilts are something I've done a lot in my career. This one, unfortunately, I sold quite some time ago, so I'm showing you a printout picture of it. But the idea is that it's try a new technique, and then if you like it, you can make the larger quilt. So the technique for this quilt is making the bias tape and doing the applique leaves, the needle turn applique leaves. And you need to know that you like doing that because, as you can see, there's quite a lot of leaves on this quilt. They are all hand needle turn applique. Yes, you could do it with fusible applique too. All of the templates in all of my applique quilts are suited to fusible applique. If you prefer doing your applique by machine, do whatever technique you like, knock yourself out. It's entirely up to you. This quilt, however, is hand needle turn applique and hand quilted. Someone asked me the other day, when I do my hand quilting, how do I get my lines on the fabric? What do I mark it with? To be honest, the secret to me to marking your background is not to mark it with anything. So I don't ever use a pen. I loathe those air erasable markers and Frixion pens and all of those things that are not good for your fabric because they're actually putting chemical into your fabric. So what I like doing is I use masking tape. You can buy masking tape at your local hardware store, anywhere from about 1/2 inch all the way up to sort of 2 or 3 inches. And you can use those to make a grid, to make stripes, to make whatever it is that you're wanting to outline. Yes, you can also buy the 1/4 inch wide quilter's tape. I personally find it doesn't stick very well. It tends to sort of peel off. I always use a hoop when I'm hand quilting, always, 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 always. I have my own brand of hand quilting needles for big stitch quilting that are the Crewel embroidery needles that you find on my website. And I also have a hand quilting thread set, which is that I do with Aurifil, which is big stitch quilting, and that's also available at my website. And the thimbles that I use and all of that stuff. And at the website there is also a hand quilting class, on-demand hand quilting class that will teach you all of this stuff. So hoops, needles, thimbles, class, thread, all available at the website if you want to try big stitch hand quilting and learn it with me. Anyway, back to this quilt. I don't know what inspired me to make it. Honestly, I really don't. I was fiddling around, as you do, and I came up with the idea of these whirling flowers, partly possibly from an antique quilt, like a wig rose or something like that, one of those slightly turning applique patterns, but it certainly wasn't a conscious thought. I think of all the quilts I've ever been contacted for the fabric, this one is the one everybody says, where can I get that fabric? And it's this Social Climber from Anna Maria Horner, or Anna Maria Parry as she is now. This fabric is absolutely gorgeous, and it had just come out when I made this quilt, so that's how old this quilt is. It was quite some time ago. And I've just hand echoed around all of that beautiful floral. She has fairly recently, re-released Social Climber. So if you're wanting to make this quilt, or indeed any quilt, and put that beautiful, beautiful print in lots of different colours on the outside, you can get that because she now does it. Anyway, The other thing that I love about this quilt is all these little tabs. And this is just something I came up with out of the clear blue sky, just for a bit of fun. I had used this little technique on my quilt, The Burbs, which we talked about way back in the beginning of the Down the Rabbit Hole series. Some of the aprons on the little pieced girls in that quilt are these little tabs, because I wanted the aprons to be hanging off the fronts of their dresses. And when I came to make this quilt, I thought how fun it would be, just quirky, if this had all of those little free tabs on it. So when it's hanging on the wall, some of the ones up the top flop down a little bit, and I know people who've made this quilt who put a little stitch in to just hold the top ones up. However, if you're going to make this quilt for a baby or something like that, my little niece used to lie flat on her back on this when she was tiny and play with these and suck on chew on all the little bits. It's been washed, I promise. And I've done this again in my Rainy Days and Sunrays quilt, which we'll talk about when we get further along. Inside all of the rainbows, all the tiny little rainbows on that quilt are those flaps. And you can see here's my favourite fishy fabric again. He appears every now and then. If you find him, please tell me. I'm on the hunt. I've got the world on the hunt for the fishy quilt, fishy fabric. I'm quite sure he's long gone. I'm probably the only person who's hoarded the scraps of the fishy fabric for 15 years. Anyway, there he is again. Yeah, so pretty much that's what you need to know about this quilt. Whirligig, if you're a beginner applicator, this is a really, really good place to start, because it's just the same shape over and over and over and over. And then by the time you get out to these slightly more difficult parts of the curves and things, you're a bit more confident with your needle, and you can start to worry about things like those little bumps on the top of the flowers. And the rest of it is pretty simple. The tabs are very easily made, and what I like to do is when I sit down to piece something, I just make a couple, put them in a pile, make a couple, put them in a pile, so that you're not making them all in one go. It's a fun quilt. The rest of this book we will be talking about in the coming weeks, and every single one of the quilts in that book has a small quilt and a large quilt. So it'll be fun to kind of see how they go along. If you're interested in dolly quilts, my next program starts 15th of July 2026, in case you're watching this in the future. 15th of July 2026, the subscriptions are open now. It's called the Lemonade Stand. And each month for 6 months, we make a small project like a needle book or a little pouch, or there's all sorts of different things I've got planned. And we make a doll quilt. We make a small quilt. So if you're interested in doll quilts and learning little techniques and learning how to do things as you go along, it's a really good project. Really good project program for you. Subscriptions to the Lemonade Stand, pattern for this quilt Whirligig in PDF or paper, the book, which is called Quilting from Little Things, and I do have good stock of that book still, because I bought all of them when it went out of print, is all available at my website, www.sarahfelke.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week.